What is going on, GBA? I am the Confusion, and I am here to bring you guys the weekly recaps with a guest. And although it says Spastic on your screen right now, unfortunately he was quite busy this weekend, so instead I brought you a very fun guest, Burke.
Well, I wouldn't say fun.
Yeah, no, sometimes he's fun, guys, sometimes. Depends what mood he's in.
Well, if you looked at the power rankings, they wouldn't say I'm very fun.
Well, I think week 3 is going to be very fun because we have a lot of fun and interesting games, that is for sure. I really didn't see one game I didn't enjoy. So you know what, let's just jump right into the first game, which is the Milwaukee Saucebucks up against the San Diego Chargers. Steve brought Lycanroc, Starmie, Cresselia, Mimikyu, Hariyama, and Xurkitree, while Envy brought Landorus, Empoleon, Muck, Magnezone, Dragonite, and Alakazam. Now, right from the get-go, when I was looking at the team prep, you could just see how much work Alola and Muck was going to do. Not only did Steve bring both of his Psychic types in Starmie and Cresselia, but Mimikyu can't really do much before it sets up a Swords Dance. It's very specially defensive for Xurkitree, so I just thought from the beginning it was going to do very well. So we'll see how that ends up turning out, but immediately Steve is definitely on the backhand. Landorus T able to just U-turn out on the lead Lycanroc and go straight into Empoleon. Steve mispredicts, goes for the Stone Edge, and Empoleon is able to Aqua Jet and take out the Lycanroc before hazards get up. Now that is really big. Even though Empoleon did have the Fog, it was still really big to make sure the rocks didn't get up, especially for things like the Dragonite, the Lando T, really anything just trying to switch in. Now, right after that, Cresselia does come, the Starmie does come in, sends out Hydro Pumps. Obviously, Steve mispredicting again. Empoleon is able to get the rocks up on Steve's side. So now we just have a lot of mispredictions causing Steve a huge turmoil in this game. He is not doing well, and that only goes south from there because as the matchup becomes Muck versus Cresselia, Cresselia sets up the Trick Room, but Muck goes for the Curse. Now that is huge because not only is it now slower than everything because Curse does lower your speed, but Cresselia has nothing to touch Muck with. All it has is Moonblast, and it's really only doing around 20%, maybe even less. So Muck has the huge upper hand, it's plus in attack, it's plus in defense, so not only is it really bulky now, but it definitely has the offense, and it just kills things. It gets so many kills. Up until it kills the Cresselia, it's ridiculous. This Muck goes on a kill spree. Hariyama does not deal too much to it with the close combat, just because 1, it didn't have the flame boost yet, and 2, because of Muck's defense boosts. So really just the set Envy brought was just so advantageous for him. It put him in such a good spot. His lead was so good. So really Envy just had the game in control the entire time, and that is super important. After that, Xurkitree is finally able to take out the Muck, as finally Magnezone is able to, well, Magnezone dies to HP ground, so at least the differential went down, but finally Dragonite is able to come in, extreme speed, and that is pretty much it. It was really a quick game. Envy was really in control. I didn't see too many moments Steve had where he really knew what was going on. He was very caught off guard, so I mean, props to Envy. Steve really has to work on his team a little bit, maybe make some free agencies, maybe work on how to deal with Pokemon like Muck, which really just handled so much of his team. I don't know, I just feel like he didn't approach the game from the beginning in the right way, but what do you think, Burke?
He seems to like to make a lot of predictions, and when you're down, you make a lot of predictions to try to get back into the game. Unfortunately, it seems that Steve lost all of those predictions. And I like the part where he sets up Trick Room specifically for Muck again with the Mimikyu. I didn't know Mimikyu actually got Trick Room, but he's like, you know, this Muck hasn't done enough. Let me set up Trick Room again for it. It was a match where Envy was in control. I don't think he specifically planned for Steve to bring Trick Room. It probably just the fact that Curse Muck is just a good set, especially for that week, takes on and sets up on Starmie, Cresselia, anything like that. So, and then because it has Shadow Sneak as priority, and Steve does not have the best Ghost Switch-ins, it can do some stuff. So, Envy played a pretty good match and just wasn't able to, and Steve just wasn't able to really capitalize on anything that Envy was doing. So the next match we got are the San Jose Sharpedos versus the San Francisco Giantes. Tom bringing a Specs Thundurus, a Rocks Bulky Nidoqueen, a fat annoying P2, Banded Doggo, AV but otherwise not offensive Hitmonlee, and a bulky Wish Gardevoir, with Geo bringing a Spadef Bronzong, AV Conkeldurr to punch things in the face, Fizdef Finny, Scarf Destiny Bond Gengar, E-Belt, Electric quote-unquote Resist, Heliolisk, and a Sub-DD Gyarados. They lead off the match, same mindset, set up rocks, because you look at both teams, don't have the best hazard removal, except for Tapu Fini can defog, but if it doesn't have defog, then, it is what it is. Turn 3, Tom makes a great prediction, goes for the Sludge Wave as the Finny comes in, pretty much neutering it as a threat to Tom's team. And this sets the pace of the match. Geo's going to be playing defensively. Tom's going to go on the offensive, because you look at the team matchups, what does Geo really have to deal with a Thundurus? His only resist is Heliolisk, and it's not quite a resistance. As we saw, took 45% from the Specs Volt Switch. Tapu Fini goes down. Tom gets himself into a really strong position, and Tom's making these good middle ground plays where Geo's playing relatively safely. Just, he's attacking what's in front of him, going for like ice punches on the Nidoqueen, not really predicting like the Gardevoir to come in. So he's losing a lot of momentum by just making these really obvious plays where Tom can capitalize, make the middle ground, be able to put himself in an offensive position, even using his defensive mons. And Geo's forced to switch around a lot on rocks. When Tapu Fini goes down and Gyarados gets weakened, that actually opens up a potential for Hitmonlee to get some kills, because with the AV, we saw that Heliolisk was not able to kill it. We saw that Gengar was not able to kill it, and he's able to take both of them down pretty easily. Just as well, anytime the Zygarde came in, that was a gigantic threat to Geo's team, and he's not able to switch into it properly, especially after Tapu Fini goes down and Gyarados gets weakened. You can see that's kind of like the linchpin of the team this week to prevent a lot of Tom's physical offense from doing work, but then on the same token, Thundurus T takes care of both of them. Although Thundurus didn't even get a kill, it was Hitmonlee and Zygarde and Gardevoir and Nidoqueen, not even Thundurus, which I felt like was the biggest threat to Geo's team. So yeah, this was just a relatively straightforward battle for Tom. Once he set the pace of the match, turn 3 with the Sludge Wave play, he's able to just kind of make these middle grounds, take momentum, and bring himself to a nice 4-0 victory over the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, I have to say, Tom just knew what to do as soon as he entered this match. He knew that Thundurus was going to be huge on his side. Hitmonlee was able to take a lot of special hits. He just knew what to do, and because Geo was just playing not only just so defensively, but so simply that he wasn't really able to play very well against Tom, because he just knew what to do. He was making the right plays, he was being on the offensive, and when you have such an electric weakness, such a weakness in general on your team to strong hits, if you don't play on the offensive, you're gonna end up losing that matchup. Tom, by playing offensive, had a much better matchup, and I think that's why he ultimately won. So I definitely see how that game ended up going. I really didn't have a doubt in my mind. I'm sure now Geo is gonna work on his weaknesses. He's a great battler. I don't think he's gonna fall behind any longer, but we will just have to see as the weeks go by. But jumping into our next match, we have the Detroit Steel Wings up against the Utah Jasmine. Chase bringing Kyurem, Cobalion, Crocodile, Tornadus, Serena, and Slowbro, while Cooper is bringing Klefki, Swellow, Zapdos, Breloom, Manaphy, and Scrafty. Now, immediately, there are just Pokemon that work so well on one side. And let me explain what I mean by that. Zapdos can easily switch in on the Tornadus T and Serena. Those two Pokemon could not do anything to Zapdos. On the other hand, Serena handled Pokemon like Breloom, Klefki, even Manaphy really, really well with the sets they were bringing. So it was really interesting to see how they were going to switch about their mons and take advantage of certain weaknesses. Immediately, Slowbro kind of felt like it didn't have much of a job, because in his team builder, Slowbro was really just there for the Darmanitan, and not bringing that just gave him another weakness to the Zapdos, another weakness to the Breloom, really another weakness to the Manaphy and the Scrafty and the Specswellow. So it definitely felt like a 5-6 battle in that sense. But starting right off the bat, Zapdos was a huge offensive threat, and it was a perfect switch, like I said, into things like the Tornadus and the Tsareena. On Chase's side, he was able to keep momentum on his favor with Tsareena, mainly as it was able to be a free pivot around the Breloom, taking the Mach Punches because of Queenly Majesty, and kind of move around this game. A definitely important point was when Swellow came in, and the question was, is this Swellow going to be a physical set or a special set? It ended up being a special set, and that definitely costs him some Pokemon like the Tsareena and the Slowbro, and the Cobalion not getting the high roll on the Volt Switch made it so that Swellow got 2 kills instead of 1. So that was very unfortunate, but that is how it is. As the match kept going, Klefki with screens was such a smart bring. It just stopped in the tracks the Kyurem, even though it was specs. Chase was just not making the right predictions when it came to clicking Earth Power on the Zapdos and not doing anything, clicking Draco on the Klefki and not doing anything. So those predictions definitely put him on the backtrack. If we are going to talk a little bit of the hacks in this game, we do have a double paralysis on the Tsareena, which is a little bit unfortunate. It did get paralyzed earlier in the match because of static, so getting the double para is unfortunate. It lost him a bit of momentum, which could have been a little important. Later on, actually, the 2 turns after, Zapdos did click Heat Wave twice and missed. So I thought that was pretty interesting. 4 turns in a row with hacks, but really not much other than that, except for the Draco crit on the Manaphy through screens. That was really, really big. Although I thought that Manaphy wasn't really going to do much to the Kyurem, it was unfortunate to see Manaphy go down right away, but that did help Chase in the long run. Manaphy was a huge threat. Really, the main threats were the Breloom and the Scrafty. Look at Chase's team. His team does not do well against the fighting types. So switching between Tornadus and Zapdos, it was a lot of switching because Chase just couldn't get the right mons in at the right time. So it really came down to a 1-0 in favor of Cooper because he just played with his mons so well. The Zapdos, the Breloom, the Manaphy, the Scrafty, he just played with them so well, did so much damage, just switched in on just the right things, like the Scrafty being able to kill off the Kyurem not able to kill off the Scrafty because of those screens. I can't emphasize how important those screens were. They really stopped a lot of the damage, and I think this game could have been a little different if the screens weren't up. So a really smart bring on Cooper, but an amazing fight from both sides. I think, as you guys can see, the Steel Wings have not lost more than 1-0 so far. They've 6-0'd someone already, so they are definitely doing well, but Cooper as well definitely is comfortable with this team, definitely knows what he's doing. Zapdos is his man. They work so well together. Unfortunate to see Cooper go. I'm pretty sure he did announce that in a video, but I definitely think this was a great battle. But what are your thoughts, Burke?
This is definitely the closest battle of the week, and I mean, Swellow being a spec set is just a really good bring in general. I feel like people underestimate how much damage it does with the base 75 special attack, because you also look at Crimson's team, what honestly really switches into that well, and I guess Cobalion is a resistance, but not to a spec Swellow. So I feel like Cooper, there was some hacks in both sides' favor. Obviously, the crit on the Manaphy was unfortunate because it allowed Kyurem to basically stay at max HP, which then meant, you know, Breloom had to come in versus maybe something else on the -2 Draco. But overall, it was a really good match. I felt like Crimson probably should have tried to preserve the Tsareena a little bit longer because of how much it dealt with on Cooper's team, especially the Breloom, which ended up winning Cooper the game. But, you know, hindsight being hindsight what it is. So up next, we have the New Orleans Pelipers versus the Alola Athletic. John bringing Flame Orb defensive Melodic, offensive leftovers Goodra, Akaberry, Rocks, Skarmory, Nasty Plot, Fightinium Z, Infernape, Life Orb offensive Scolipede, and Scarf Bulu. Callum bringing the Choice Banded Damage Embor, Crobat, I guess a bulky check to Bulu, Sash Espeon, defensive Druddigon, Scarf Excadrill, and my favorite set, Trick Room Lagging Tail Sableye. I love Trick Lagging Tail Sableye. I love Trick Lagging Tail. You don't see it coming, and all of a sudden now your Fast Sweeper is pretty much crippled. It's a fun set. So right off the bat, I see -1 ways to deal with Milotic. Embor is not a way to deal with Milotic, even with the Wild Charge. especially against like John's team, which he can switch around and switch into things to take the wild charge. So that Emboar is not great. He doesn't even have taunt on Crobat. Espeon can deal some damage. Not really. Druddigon's defensive. Drill, it's not going to do anything. And Sableye can trick at a lagging tail, but I don't really see what that's going to do. So -1 ways of dealing with Milotic, and just about as many ways to deal with an offensive Infernape. And that's basically what this match came down to. Callum had no ways of killing them or switching into Infernape. And because of that, Milotic's able to get 2 kills, and Infernape's able to get 3 kills. And it didn't really matter what Callum did. He would have had to try to stall out Milotic out of recovers with his Crobat, but as soon as Crobat gets burned, that plan's kind of out the window anyway. So in the beginning of the match, Callum does make some decent plays. He predicts like Skarm coming in to get Emboar in, and while Emboar takes a huge chunk of damage from the Brave Bird, takes out the Skarmory right away, which kind of gives an opening for Excadrill if he can weaken the Milotic, open up to like Banded Crobat, for instance. But then Milotic sits on the field because Emboar was the only thing that could possibly deal damage to the Milotic if it had Banded Wild Charge, and with it being dead and only being able to go for 1 Wild Charge due to recoil, Emboar is going to go down anyway. So I don't really have much else to say about this. Callum didn't plan for Milotic. Really cost him. As he said in the match, he should have brought Rotom Wash. He didn't, and you can see that's kind of what happens when you don't really have anything to deal with, especially something like the Milotic. It's just going to sit in the field. It's going to do what it does, and it's going to basically win the game for John. So that's all I got.
Yeah, what surprised me about him not really preparing for the Milotic was the fact that his team has so many Mons that worked very similar to Milotic. He has Snorlax, his Aromatisse, he also has Fat Mons that you would think to prepare for those Fat Mons, but he didn't. Milotic and the combination of Infernape was a really powerful core, just killed so many things, sat in front of so many things, really just held control of the battle. So I really think it was a good game. It was a great showing of Fightinium Z. I love seeing Z Infernape. I think it's a great set. It does lose some things on a Choice Scarf or a Life Orb, but the fact is you can still bring those. So just adding a Z move onto a Pokemon like Infernape, which is so versatile, I think is very, very smart. So after a game like that, we are going to move into the next game, which is the Florida Gators up against the St. Louis Rampardos. The Gators bring Latios, Whimsicott, Galvantula, Hawlucha, Diggersby, and Heatran, while Rampardos bring Terrakion. That's pretty much it. No, I'm joking. He also brings Victini, Haxorus, Gliscor, Gliscopod, and Delmise. Now, a lot of people were saying that this match was pretty much going to be Mamoswine versus the Rampardos, but in my opinion, this was Terrakion versus the Gators. Dan prepped a lot for the Mamoswine and it didn't even come. I think, like Envy was saying a lot, the combination of Diggersby and Mamoswine could have done so much work up against A-Drive's team, but he only brought the Diggersby, and I personally feel like that cost him. I think the Latios set was really smart on Gator's part. Being able to bring the dual coverage of Ice Beam and Psychic, with the Z Psychic obviously, was so smart. It really just covered everything he needed to, plus Protect. Protect allowed him to wall the one Pokemon that could one-shot it, which was Golisopod. It could one-shot and outspeed with First Impression, but just bringing Protect allowed it to completely wall that set. And I thought that was such a genius move. Obviously, Golisopod is a new Mon, so it's hard to think about those things, but we have seen that then again with Pokemon like Protect against a Fake Out against Mega Lopunny, so I was just very interested to see how he used that up against Pokemon like Golisopod. But all in all, it was really just Terrakion hitting 7 Stone Edges that was so important in this match. Now, in my opinion, that was very, very reckless on Dan's side. Not like he had much of a choice. He had to play offensive. He came to play offensive, and he did play offensively. But I did think that was very, very risky to just keep shooting out Stone Edges. Obviously, it worked out for him and did not work out so much for Gator. He did try using Diggersby. He definitely thought he was going to switch, but Diggersby ended up staying in to click Ice Punch. Terrakion did not switch, and that did cost him the Diggersby. So not only did it cost him the Heatran with a Stone Edge, 2 Stone Edges killed the Diggersby on an over-prediction, and Hawlucha only having Acrobatics was really not enough to kill the Terrakion. Without Fighting Stab, it couldn't kill the Terrakion, and substitutes, although I thought Stone Edge could, miss against one of those substitutes and switch the game around, it did not do that. Terrakion landed every one of those Stone Edges. That was incredible for Dan's side, super unfortunate for Gator's side. But Terrakion got 3 very, very important kills on almost all of Gator's offensive mons, Hawlucha, Diggersby, and Heatran. And then Haxorus, a Scarfed Haxorus, was able to just finish off the end game, kill the Whimsicott, kill the Galvantula. That was pretty much it. I thought this was such a great battle just because Dan is not normally known for playing this offensively, and I think it just showed him that playing offensively is definitely possible and viable. So this is a match that's going down in books. I thought it was a super cool match to watch and something we can all learn when it comes to not only the hacks of the game, which you cannot prep for, but how playing offensively can change things instead of playing so defensively, even though they both have their benefits. But what are your thoughts, Burke, on that?
So Dan can't hit Toxic, but he can hit Stone Edges.
Oh wow! I just put.
I don't think he's allowed to complain about missing Toxics anymore after this kind of game. But this is very reminiscent of Season 4 against John, when he hit 7 or 8 Stone Edges and 4 Hydro Pumps in a row. So he can hit those, but he can't hit Toxic. Kind of odd to me. Yeah, Choice Band of Terrakion is an extraordinarily scary threat, especially against a team with what I consider to be 0 rock resist, because Diggersby is not a rock resist on any plan, especially Choice Banded Stone Edge. It ain't taken that well. So when you look at a team like that, anytime Terrakion came in, it was going to click the Stone Edge button, and it just happened that all those Stone Edges hit. With that happening, Dan was able to open up, Haxorus to clean up at the end. So Dan picking up his first win. Good for him. Unfortunately, Gator, I didn't really see the logic in some of his stats. Like, some of them work like to protect Latios, but, mono attacking Hawlucha and, so on and so forth. But overall, it was a really good game. And with that being said, we'll move on to the San Francisco Arcaniners versus the Pittsburgh Piratas. Piratatatatatatatatatatas. And George brought a bulky Rocky Helm Garchomp, Swords Dance coverage Mew, Assault Vest coverage Raikou, also Assault Vest coverage Suicune, Scarf Mienshao, and the Life Orb Rock Polish Spicy Registeel. Top brought Mixed Life Orb Tapu Koko, Assault Vest Mixed Tangrowth, Fat and Passive Blissey, E-Belt coverage Hydreigon, Infiltrator Scarf Memento Chandelure, and Standard Minior, which died. So, at the start of this match, Raikou was supposed to be the counter for Tapu Koko, but then you see that it's physical with the Wild Charge, and then it crits the Raikou, and Raikou is no longer a switch into Tapu Koko. But Tup, for some reason, did not think that George would be Scarf Mienshao and sacks off the biggest threat that I think George's team, which was the Tapu Koko, turned to. So immediately, Tup is down, and he really needs to make plays to come back into this match. Unfortunately, much like with Steve's match, Tup also was trying to make a lot of predictions, and unfortunately almost none of them were right. Like Toxicing the Mew, expecting things to switch out, so on and so forth. With Tapu Koko gone, he really didn't have a great way of dealing with Suicune. I understand it's a Tangrowth, but it was a modest max special attack Suicune, and I'm pretty sure that Ice Beam, so Tangrowth really isn't a very good switch into it. I'm pretty sure if it had taken some round of damage, Tangrowth would be two-shotted by Ice Beam, even with the Assault Vest. Swords Dance Mew did quite a few things, set up Swords Dances, leeched life the Hydreigon, and was able to really just punish a lot of Tup's team killing the Tangrowth, which was very important to deal with things like Suicune, things like Garchomp, things like Mienshao. So Tangrowth is very important, but unfortunately it goes down. Hydreigon takes a lot of damage, and I really liked how George played the Mew. You know, he starts setting up Swords Dance and going for Earthquakes against the Blissey, making sure that Mew goes down to Toxic, so Minior cannot come in and set up a Shell Smash for free because the Mew didn't have anything to hit Minior with. So that was actually really good playing by George. Even though he had to lose a little bit of differential, I don't think it really mattered in the long run. And without Tangrowth and without Tapu Koko, Suicune can sit in the field and just kill things, which it cleans up. Now, I think Tup could have possibly won. It was a slight chance, but it's possible if he had, instead of going for Energy Ball with the Chandelure on the Suicune, went for Memento instead, and then try to set up a Minior. It might have been able to sweep, but that's a very big might and a very big if. I do not know. But he doesn't. Suicune cleans up, no problem, and that's going to be a 4-0 victory for George and the San Francisco Arcanines.
Oh my god, I found this game absolutely insane. I do want to note though that as amazing as Mew is and as versatile as it is, I think Leech Life made it so much more versatile. It is a 80 base power bug type move that recovers just as much as a move like Drain Punch and Giga Drain does, so it's essentially better, maybe not in coverage, but definitely in how much damage it's doing for a recovery move. So I think that definitely allows Mew to become more versatile in that sense. I also want to talk about that dual electric type lead with Raikou and Tapu Koko. They both got sacked within the first 2 turns. I personally think that sacking the Raikou wasn't as bad. I mean, Tup did have things like the Blissey, the Tangrowth, the Hydreigon. They really didn't care about the Raikou. But so many Pokemon got threatened out by the Tapu Koko, I don't think it was smart for him to let that go down turn 2. So that was something I was questioning. Obviously, you know, keeping Suicune around was his best way to beat that Minior, so keeping that around was really smart. But other than that, I mean, I enjoyed watching this game. As horrible as Tup played, I'm sorry, he just really needed to play a little better, and I'm hoping he will do so in the future. But he was over-predicting just way too much when George didn't really need to over-predict, and you have to understand when your opponent doesn't need to over-predict and when you just need to make the right plays. So I mean, that was a game that was very interesting. Analyze it to your own, you know, I thought that was a really good game regardless. So moving on to the next game, we have the Free State Torracats up against the Philadelphia Scissors. Now, Duncan is bringing Weavile, Marowak, Landorus, Keldeo, Metagross, and Torkoal, while the Scissors and Chimp is bringing Kyurem, Thundurus, Azumarill, Fortress, Claydol, and Volcanion. Now, on Chimp's end, Volcanion and Azumarill are going to put in so much work. And although you would think as water types up against a sun team that doesn't make a lot of sense, being that one of those Pokemon is a fire type and the other one has a Rain Dance support in Thundurus, I think it is going to put in a lot of work, and I was not wrong. We have a really strong lead between the Metagross and the Claydol. Metagross missing the first Meteor Mash was really big because Claydol was able to get rocks up right away and was able to get rid of the Shuca Berry and Earth Power it. So I think that lead was really, really crucial for getting rid of the Metagross, and I think that was really a great lead for Chimp's end, because that even though the Meteor Mash miss is unfortunate, it was able to give Chimp a little bit of the boost when it came to his Claydol. Now, when it comes further into the match, we have Volcanion just clicking Flamethrower. It was really threatening out a lot of different Pokemon. His best switch-in was the Torkoal, and it set up the Sun for him, so that was really interesting. It went down. Volcanion is just a monster. Fortress also getting a kill because of the Earthquake on Alola and Marowak. I just thought Chimp brought just the right coverage, just the right prep, that Duncan was really just overwhelmed with how much power Chimp was actually bringing. Towards the end, Duncan did try setting up with the Keldeo with Calm Minds. I thought that was really important because the Calm Minds was probably his best way of winning, especially being that Thundurus was a negative special attack nature, so his Thunderbolts weren't doing that much, especially after a Calm Mind. But with Azumarill getting a crit on the Landorus, he really did not have much for Azumarill. That was unfortunate, the crit on the Landorus, the miss with the Metagross. Duncan definitely got his fair share of hacks this game, but Chimp, on the other hand, did play really well with his Mons, especially with his water types. He knew exactly what to do, and just like the last game with the Volcanion clicking Sludge Bomb and the game before, he knows what he's doing, he knows what he needs to do to win. And that mindset of thinking 5 steps ahead is what I think put Chimps above a lot of these other players, win or lose. So him being able to set up the Rain Dance with Thundy once the Keldeo is weakened enough, and Azumarill being able to just click Aqua Jet on the Weavile, on the Keldeo, was just enough to pick him that win. So I think it was a really good game. I'm impressed with both sides. Duncan, I felt, did lack a little bit on his prep. He brought pretty standard things apart from the Calm Mind Keldeo. Regardless of that, though, I think Chimp's prep was really sufficient, really good. And I think if he continues down this path of prepping as well as he did this match, he is going to have a great season.
Yep, this was a pretty good match. Obviously, some hacks does play a role into it, and Azumarill getting that crit Aqua Jet definitely gave Chimp an edge. The miss with the Metagross and then the subsequent crit was, I think, actually a little bit worse for Champak, because he wanted to show off, I think it was the Iapa Berry. I don't really remember what it does, but it requires him to be low in health. But unfortunately, he couldn't because the crit didn't quite put him in range. So, I guess unfortunate for him. But it is a Claydol. It'll never do what you want it to do because it is the worst mon in all of existence, and it shouldn't have ever been picked up in the first place.
I don't know why you hate that thing. I just don't.
It's a Claydol. That's all that needs to be said. I like the fact that he set up Rain towards the end to make sure that Azumarill would be able to clean up. So really good prep on Chimp's part. I'm not really quite sure why he had Rain Dance and only Thunderbolt and not Thunder. I guess in case if he couldn't set up the rain, but still, that would have been pretty cool to see. But Chimp playing pretty good and picking up the nice 2-0 victory. And the last battle of the week, and one of my favorites, the Borussia Donphan versus the Tampa Bay Luxrays. Lars bringing AV offensive Nihilego, a Figgy Bulkup Tornadus, Life Orb kinda mixed Lucario, Fizz Def Rocky Helmet Donphan, physically defensive Kebia Primarina, and the Scarf coverage Healing Wish Latias. The Mono bringing Chople Fat Miltank, AV offensive Jirachi, which pretty cool, Scarf and also Trash Bisharp, Mixed Life Orb Greninja, Nasty Plot Dual Stab Salazzle, and Banded Zygarde Snake Form. So this match, they both have very similar mentalities. Get up rocks really early, that way we can start chipping down, especially on Salazzle, Mono side, and then things like Tornadus on Lars' side. I do think the rocks were a little bit worse for Lars, and I think he needed to get those off his side of the field sooner than someone like Mono did, because he didn't really need to switch in Salazzle pretty much at all. Salazzle didn't even really hit the field much, so it really hurt Lars most off, so he was the one that needed to get rid of the rocks. Rachi did actually quite a lot to Lars' team. He wasn't prepared, like he said, for an offensive Jirachi. He was thinking more Spadef to deal with Latias, but Assault Vest offensive was a little bit better of a bring because it was able to whittle down a bunch of things on Lars' team and take out the Donphan. I like how he played around the Primarina, which, you look at Mono's team, doesn't really have too much that wants to switch into it, and then pivot back out into Jirachi to make sure that he can get off a hit, hopefully put it in range of Gunk Shot from Greninja. Now, for Lars though, he did use Primarina well, able to take out the Greninja because of the Kebia Berry, which, Greninja, fast, offensive threat against Lars' team, and if that thing was still around and the Primarina wasn't around, would have been able to put in a lot of work. But Lars was able to put a lot of pressure on Mono's team. And with getting rid of Jirachi, Mono loses the best switch into Latias, so now he's got to play a little bit more. He's got to make some more switches around it, try to get Bisharp in to maybe Pursuit Trap it, maybe knock it off. So, it was definitely definitely good on Lars Rachi. And then Miltank able to successfully 1v1 the bulk of Tornadus, which is actually pretty amusing to see because Miltank is so goddamn fat. It is so annoying to take down. And Mono is using it well. And I know people are like questioning, why Miltank? Miltank is freaking good. And with the Tornadus down and Zygarde able to take out both the Nihilego and Lucario, because Zygarde is amazing. With 1,000 arrows, it's just so much better, even though the whole 1,000 arrows part didn't really take into effect. But Zygarde able to take down 2 things. And then Bisharp cleans up the Lottie as it was locked into Ice Beam. And the only way Lars is going to win if it locked into Ice Beam and froze 2 things. So really good game. Mono picked up the 2-0 win and being the only undefeated team after this week.
That is definitely something to note. Tampa Bay Luxray is the only undefeated team so far, but that could change next week. But he is doing very, very well. The only GBA coach right now who is 3-0. But I do want to support you in the sense that Miltank is very good. Being able to handle a bulk up Tornadus was very impressive. But hey, that's exactly what Miltank does. It's very good in that sense. And without great recovery on the Tornadus, I do know it had that berry that healed him 50%. It wasn't the best recovery, especially when you have something like Sub. So Miltank was able to handle that. I thought the way both teams handled their water types in Greninja and Primarina was really, really cool, because the Greninja thought, Mono thought he was being smart in bringing the Gunk Shot and being able to kill that thing, but at the same time Lars knew that and brought a physically defensive with a Kibia Berry Primarina to take that Gunk Shot even at a low amount of health. So that was really cool, that transaction right there. But from that point, let's jump into the conference breakdown and look at where all these teams are standing at week 3. Now, what I want to notice is 2 veteran GBAs sitting really, really low in the San Francisco Giants and Pittsburgh Piratas. The Giants have a -9 differential and the Piratas have a -10 differential. I'm pretty sure Tup is the only team that does not have a win thus far. Hopefully that'll change very quickly. But regardless, I think the Akala division looks amazing. 3 of the teams having either a neutral or positive differential, only 1 team having a negative differential, which I don't think any other team has right now. Nope, no other team has right now. So another division has right now, so I thought that was really cool. The Melee, San Jose Sharpedos, and Detroit Steel Wings both have a +4 differential, but Tom is above him because he does have 2 wins instead of the Detroit Steel Wings, which only have 1 win. But I think this breakdown, this conference, they look really, really good. Other than Top being at 0-3, Mono actually being at 3-0 is really cool. I'm very excited to see where this goes, because with with people like Chimp and Envy at the top, people we know have been playing really well and have only entered the draft format recently. Sitting at the top is very cool to see. I love seeing Tom at the top, and of course I love seeing Mono at the top. He's a very well respected and just a good battler, so I'm very happy to see that he is still the only team that has not suffered a loss yet.
Yeah, I don't really have too much to add aside from Melee division. It goes from positive differential, negative differential, positive differential, negative differential. So, Cooper, having a positive win-loss, but a negative differential is not the first time that's happened. I think it also happened season 4, I want to say. I'm pretty sure that happened season 4 as well, so kind of funny, but nothing really too much else to add.
Yeah, these divisions look crazy. And it's only week 3, and they already look so interesting. So I am so pumped to see where they can go from here. But lastly, we are going to jump into the league leaders, the Pokemon that have destroyed lives in only 3 weeks. And sitting at the #1 spot is Cobalion from the Detroit Steel Wings, picking up 3 kills this week, but on top of the 5 kills it got the week before. It now has 9 kills and 2 deaths, giving it a +7 differential. At the #2 spot, we have Volcanion picking up 6 kills, and it has a 4 differential with only 2 deaths. And Milotic, actually, as a defensive mon, still has 5 kills up there, which is super impressive. 2 water types just shot to the top of the kill board, so that is really cool to see. Cobalion is still up there. Really, three Pokemon that you don't normally see at the top of the kills. Even though Volcanion is very offensive mon, I would not really expect it to be the number 2 spot just because it's so weak to rocks and so hard to get in. But yup, Milotic, Volcanion, and Cobalion all sitting at 1, 2, and 3. After that, we have Conkeldurr, Landorus, we have Hitmonlee, we have the Muck, we have the Buzzwole, we have the Suicune. We have so many Pokemon that just look crazy. Hitmonlee up here is very cool. You don't normally see that around. Alola and Muck grabbing so many kills just this past week. Suicune grabbing kills, Buzzwole being the monster that it is. It is just a crazy group of Pokemon to have sitting up here. We have 3 fighting types, 4 if you're counting the Cobalion. Just crazy Pokemon. I love seeing these type of Pokemon when you have Pokemon like Suicune and Landorus. Very different Pokemon, but can still in a league format get kills no matter what the scenario is.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting race. You don't see, well, with Megas being gone, you don't see like the normal culprits at the top like your Mega Pincers. So new things have to take over. Cobalion's just a really cool mon, holding up the top because of those six or 5 kills it got last week. And yeah, most of them being fighting types at the top.
Even though Terrakion clicked Stone Edge, not close combat.
And even though Hitmonlee is just not an offensive fighting type. So, really interesting league leader race. We'll see what actually stays at the top by the end of the season, but I feel like something like Terrakion is going to move up just because Terrakion is such a threat. Yeah. Such a threat.
Especially as a Z captain. I think the only Z captains we actually have up here is that Terrakion, if I'm correct. Yeah. Looks like Terrakion is the only Z captain, and that might be surprising because you would think that Z captains would have the upper end in kills. It's looking that only one of them does, and it's at the 6th spot. So really interesting right there. Please, guys, let us know your thoughts, your criticism, what you love. Let us know if you're hyped for next week, week 4. We have a bunch of very cool matches. But thank you, Burke, for helping me out this week. Next week, we should have Spastic back. And us 2 goofs are going to go back to doing the weekly recaps. So thanks, Burke.
No problem.
All right, guys. We'll see you. Enjoy. And we will see you next week on Wednesday. Peace.